Okay, so you're all very welcome to this Environmental Services Committee meeting on Wednesday, the 4th of September in the Town Hall here. We'll start off with item agenda 1, apologies. I have one for Councillor Bernard McGrath. Do we have any other apologies? Councillor McClary?
Councillor Roy Crawford.
Thank you. Councillor Maguire?
I believe there's an apology for Councillor Hayes. Councillor Feely's in the building, so. And Anne Marie has joined us online, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that.
One moment.
Councillor Robinson?
And Councillor Hawks are online. George to be him.
Okay. Okay, now moving on to item number 2, to sign the minutes and confidential minutes of the previous meeting held on the 2nd of July, and that's already been done. Now, number 3, any declarations of interest? Nobody indicating, so now moving on to reports for decision. Item 4, Community and Wellbeing Direct Report 4.1, to consider report on street naming and numbering paper A, and that's to you, John.
Thank you, Chair. 5 street names for members to consider new developments. The first one is the naming of the retail development at Drumcoo on the Kilmacormack in Enniskillen. The proposed name is Lakelands Road. And it is considered by officers to meet the terms of the policy. And I suppose, you know, in the location of it, is the Lakelands in Enniskillen, a big development, an important development for the town. The second one is street name and development at Lisla-Mallard in Omagh. The proposed name is Woodside Grange. And again, the Grange, it's opposite the council offices at the Grange itself. The Woodside is something that the developer has came with. The third one is for Carrigan in Enniskillen on the Sligo Road, and the proposed name is Carrigan Quay. The Carrigan is where the development is situated, and the word quay is considered acceptable, as Rosso Lock is located near to the proposed site. The fourth one is at Barra in Ballinamallard. It's proposed for the name of Barra Oaks. It's in the townland of Barra, and the word oaks is considered acceptable, as there are existing oak trees which are retained as part of the planning permission. The fifth one is street naming of a development, Lambeg in Enniskillen. It's proposed to approve the name Little Leap for the development, which the meaning of the townland name of Lambeg. So, Chair, the 5 names are recommended in section 8 of the report as I've outlined. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, John. Councillor Maguire?
Slightly stressed out when I seen this report in its entirety. There's not one of those names that I think actually fit within our policy, or at least within my understanding of the policy. Lakelands Road, don't see how that fits at all in the area of Kilmacormack and Drumcoo. And as some members would be aware, that a simple understanding of the townlands can sometimes resolve these issues. Lakelands, not at all associated with the Cornergrade Road in my understanding. You can see the back lock, not the Lakelands. Irvinstown Road, it's already there. Cornergrade Road's already there. Very, very little imagination in that. And I would question what consultation or what conversations took place, or what depth of inquiry is made with developers as to how they're going to link townlands to the development. The Lisna-Mallard in Omagh. Lisna-Mallard, very respectable old townland name, and we're stuck with a proposal for Woodside Grange. Grange has been the development across the road. Not, again, Woodside Grange. Not so sure there's much of a wood down there, or last time we had a conversation down there, we were talking about removing trees from the area. So Woodside Grange does not, to me, conform in any way with the policy as I understand it. The next one at Carrigan Quay. Carrigan, and indeed I received email today from Fermanagh District Council, and it was a bilingual text, and it actually had the meaning of Carrigan and some other relevant parts of Enniskillen in Irish and in English. And it explained that Carrigan means small rocky place or something similar to that. The rocky ground, yeah, but the rocky ground and a quay doesn't fit together in my understanding of the townland and what a quay is. I know it backs onto the lake there, but again, I'm not sure that it was a lot of thought went into that one. The next one then is Barra Oaks, and it even says within the report that the word Barra means a shaved or shorn or a bare place. So unless, again, my brain doesn't work in a particular way that some other people's brain does work. If you have a barren place, I don't know where you're going to get the oak trees out of. So there's a contradiction in the name there. And to me, certainly doesn't conform with the policy. The other one, which is a complete perversion of the policy, in my understanding, is to take Lambeg, perfectly acceptable historical name, translation, the same as Limavady. We have Liambug, which means the little leap, but to just take an English translation of the historical townland, I don't believe conforms with the policy, as I say, again, in my understanding. So I would not be accepting any of the recommendations. And in fact, I would recommend that each of them be returned back to our department and that some clarification of our policy is made. And perhaps we as a committee could do with some clarification as to the mechanism of how, once a developer puts a proposal forward, that some of our officers and staff deal with it, because I don't think it's too far a stretch to say that historically we have always, previously Fermanagh Council, supported the retention of the town lands. We lost that debate, but further to that, there was a policy developed for naming of places that at least the name should apply to or retain the town land where possible. Don't see a pile of that in this report, but
Would you like to make a proposal, Councillor Maguire?
sorry, yeah, well, if I could just to clarify, to make how serious it is, like
Yeah.
there is a democratic process that we go before the people every 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
and we have argued our cases over the years on the issue of town lands.
Yeah.
When we present ourselves to the people, people understand that's our policy and our thinking on this issue.
Yeah.
So when it comes to political oversight then of a decision of the council,
Yeah.
the least we can expect is that the mechanisms within the council reflect that mandate that we received.
Yeah. So you're making that formal proposal? that
So
we-
I'm going to make a formal
Yeah.
proposal that we accept none of these names. Further discussion is had with the developers. Information is made available to the developers that conversations can be had with staff within the town hall to make a further proposal that may be more suitable. And as Director John Boyle knows, this has happened in the past with very positive solutions. And I think some conversations is needed here. And I have always said that I'm available at any time to speak to any developer in this
Okay.
district and help them come up with
Okay,
a
no
more suitable
problem.
name that would please
Yeah.
everybody.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Maguire, do you want to come in there, John, at all before bringing anybody else in?
No, Chair, I think we will certainly go back to the developer, and we'll also bring through in the next report the mechanism about how these are dealt with through council, as you suggest, Councillor Maguire, yeah.
Okay, Councillor McLaury?
Thank you. I take a slightly different view from Councillor Maguire with some of these. I'm just wondering why the Lakelands Retail Park, is it going to be so many things in there that they actually need a road name as well? I mean, why can't it just be the name of the premises at Lakelands Retail Park as a postal address and a postcode on it? I can't understand why they need a road name for it, but that's something else for another day. Woodside, I'm sorry, my screen has gone off here, but it's updating here in front of me. I'm not sure what the end of Woodside was, but that's directly accessed off Woodside Avenue. And it would make sense that it would have a similar name and an extension of that slightly different from Woodside Avenue that in Oma. I mean, part of the road naming service is to make it easy for emergency services and stuff, and that's actually identified there that if it is, if somebody knows where Woodside Avenue is and then they assume that the new Woodside is off that, then it would be easy to follow. Whereas if it's a totally obscure or different name, then I think that could lead to some form of confusion. I'm not going to argue about the translation, but I can see where the contractor's going. And the Barra Road is something off the Barra Road, whilst Oaks may not be suitable. I'm sure there's some other abbreviation, manner, glebe. There's 100 words they could have put there behind Barra, and maybe, as Councillor Maguire says, Oaks is slightly different. And I don't have the last one there to comment on, but the first one in particularly, and the second one, I do have that's my feelings on those two there. That I mean, why have a road name on Lakelands Retail Park? I mean, is it going to be? Thank you, Paul. The last one was no, the one above it was. The Carrigan's Caves beside the water. It's a cave, it's a rough stony ground, and there's a key there. It loosely fits, but I mean, the Lakelands Retail Park is the one that I would have. I can't understand why they need to put a road name in there as well. I mean, why can't it just be Lakelands Retail Park and the name of the premises? I'm sure our postal services and emergency services can read the large signs identifying the premises. That's just my views on it. So. I do think we need to look at some of these, but I don't think we need to look at all 5 of them.
Thank you for that. Councillor Feely.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'll second Councillor Maguire's proposal.
Thank you. Okay, so that is Councillor Maguire's proposal, proposed and seconded. We all in agreement that it goes back to be looked at again? No dissent, okay. Okay, so moving on to the next item, item 4.2, to consider report of street naming and number in dual language paper B. That's back to you, John.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the standard report on dual language signage, there were 6 roads which were assessed and are put forward for membership. There are 4 of them which have met the criteria, Listerg, Gleneless Road, Ballantrae Road and Flushtown Road. And the translations are included there in table 3. So it's recommended that the council approves the installation of dual language signage for the roads and streets listed in table 3 in accordance with the street naming and numbering policy.
Yeah, thank you, John. Councillor McLaughry.
Again, I have concerns around. There's one of those there, and there's absolutely no residents have indicated that they were in favour of a dual language sign, and you've got to wonder how or why that was brought before council at all, and the money that was invested in that. And again, my party, we have concerns about this policy, so we'll be voting against it.
Okay, so your dissent is noted. Councillor Maguire, please. Councillor Maguire.
Thank you, Margaret Carney.
Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. And again, as is usual, I will propose the recommendations. And if I could just add that this continuing rejection of this process on a monthly basis by some members in the chamber is becoming a bit nauseous. And I'd remind all councillors, and I think we do all pretty much conform to it most of the time, but we have a responsibility under Section 75 to consider all aspects of the population that lives in the area. And for councillors to reject the naming of streets in a bilingual process that has gone through this council, and the policy is there, every councillor is aware of it. Not every decision of this council is pleasing to me. There is many decisions in this chamber that allocate funds and give concessions to groups and people out there that I may not have a particular affinity with. But I'm aware that we have a very diverse population in our district, becoming ever more diverse, as we found out this week in some of our meetings with the new people in the district. Councillor Brown and myself met several groups. We have to be mindful that there are decisions in council that we may not be pleased with on a personal basis, but to put it on public record that you're rejecting a policy decision of the council when it can be seen as in conflict with Section 75, I think it needs to be noted, Chair.
Yeah. No problem. Thank you, Councillor Ware. I think Councillor Robinson, you were to come in next, and Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald will come in.
You, Chair, we're not supporting it, DUP, not supporting it.
Okay, that's dissent noted. Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald, you want to come in there? You're on mute, I think.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Just for Councillor Maguire's remarks, I'm delighted to see this coming forward every month upon month. And it's good to let the people decide. We have made a policy within the council, as Councillor Maguire says, Section 75, and we have to be tolerable of people's beliefs, cultures and identities. I'm delighted with this. It's great to see that so many people, of the people who we represent, has chosen to go forward and who want their names or their land or the road signs named in Irish. It's to be very much welcome, and it's very disheartening month after month after month. You know what I mean? People are constantly berating and not acknowledging the Irish culture within our communities and the people that we all represent, and who the council represents as well. And as Councillor Maguire has said, what has been called past as council policy. So I very much welcome every road name, and it's great to see that so many people have been taking part in surveys.
Are you happy to propose, Anne-Marie?
I'm happy to propose.
Oh, sorry, second, but that's what I meant,
Yeah.
So that's
seconded,
proposed by Councillor Maguire and seconded by Anne-Marie Fitzgerald, and we're all in agreement bar the dissent. Sorry, Councillor Hawkes, you'd like to come in there?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry I can't get my camera on here tonight, but I just would like to say, although obviously Councillor Maguire and that feels it's very nauseous that we raise an objection to this, but in my walk of life here, where in the area that I represent, anyone that speaks to me actually is against these proposals, find them very, very unfair, actually, you know, with the ratio of 85 to 15. Many roads that have, if we want to divide it into nationalist and unionist, roads that are predominantly unionist have actually Irish signs on them. So, you know, unless the policy was a lot fairer, then we could maybe argue the other way, but at the moment, it doesn't please people in my constituency here. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, your notes are noted, Councillor Hawkes. Councillor Fitzgerald, you've already been in. Make it brief, please. You're on mute again.
Yes, and thank you very much, Chair. Just bear with me, just very quickly. Roads are not unionist, Protestant, Catholic, Irish, upside down. You know what I mean? They're for everybody. They're for everybody to use, and the people who live on those roads has every right to say what sign they want.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Thank you for that. We're not going to get into a tit for tat back and forth. Councillor Coyle, you want to come in?
No, well, we don't want to make it tit for tat, but I'm just interested on why the dissent is made every month, what the reason is. Because just to say a dissent, on what grounds? It's our policy. So I'm just wondering what the grounds are for the dissent.
Councillor Elliott?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Well, I'm sure that the councillors, if they go back to when the policy was actually put to council, you'd probably find it was the same people voted against it then. So we're not going to, we were against it then, so we're hardly going to vote for it going forward. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so that is that item dealt with. We'll move on to item 4.3 to consider report on Sunday trading. Paper sales to John again.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Council have received correspondence from a supermarket retailer requesting that consideration is given for their store or designating Oma, Enniskillen and Lisnaskea as holiday resorts in order to avail of longer Sunday opening hours. It's a letter which has been received by all councils, I think, in the region. The responsibility for it allows district councils, according to legislation, to designate any area within this district as a holiday resort. The meaning of that is that any shop with a floor area exceeding 280 metres squared may open at any time on up to 18 Sundays between the 1st of March and the 30th of September each year. The retailer would have to notify the council of which Sundays they are opening on, but it exempts those large shops from restricted Sunday trading hours between 1 and 6 on those 18 occasions. The holiday resort like I say, the retailer has to notify the council of the dates of the Sundays involved, and the council has to agree that of those dates, and the council has to maintain a register if it agrees to the towns becoming holiday resorts. This is something that council have discussed the longer opening hours in the past, especially during the COVID pandemic, where there was a relaxation of it for healthcare workers or whatever to come and shop at earlier times. And following that, in the run up to Christmas, there were requests for that to be extended. At that time, the members had discussed it in relation to the negative impact on the employees, the need for staff to have a good work-life balance, the ability of people to attend their place of worship, and those were all concerns, and it was consultation with the Churches Forum at that time, and members had decided against extending the opening hours. And based on those previous discussions and the decisions of council, it's recommended that the council replies to the supermarket chain advising that there will be no extension of Sunday trading hours for the large shops through the designation of the areas within the district as a holiday resort. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. Councillor Fitzgerald, are you looking in on this item? No. Okay. Councillor McLaughry?
Thank you. Suppose I'm aware of other council areas where this policy does operate, and it seems to operate fairly well. The premises do advise it. And I mean, we are identifying ourselves as a tourist area, and here we have a leading supermarket who want us to accept them as providing a service for tourists. I know that the other council area in the past used to lock up play parks on Sundays, so the fact that they're now letting supermarkets stay open, I mean, provided the unions and everybody else is happy, I can see no reason why for those 18 days per year that we wouldn't allow. I know it may be previously policy, or maybe we need to look at what we've thought about in the past, but I would have thought maybe if we're going to be moving forward and pushing our area as a tourist area, then we do need to be accepting changes like this.
Thank you. John, do you want to come in, John, on that?
No, not at all. It is a decision for members. I think before we would decide to allow it, then we would have to go out for consultation with various bodies and bring a report back as we did in November of 2020 with the Churches Forum, and the decision for council would be informed by those discussions with the various relevant stakeholders. So if council decided that it is something that they would wish to follow, then that consultation process would be a natural progression of that.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I suppose the name holiday resort, I don't fully understand how it's going to have any impact on tourism as such. I know John mentioned, we're hopefully going to attract tourists and we want to give them an opportunity to shop locally. But I have to say now, I think, you know, the current rules state that smaller retailers are able to open on Sundays, and maybe it would be a good thing for some of our tourists when they come that they can avail of some of our smaller smaller retailers. You know, so maybe we'd be concerned on the impact on them, and you know, but primarily I think my concern would be the employees and the workers out there who, you know, work long enough hours, you know, and maybe have a real desire to have, you know, a Sunday off. So so on that basis, I think I would be happy enough to propose that we go with recommendation.
Thank you for that. Councillor Coyle?
Well, I would have liked more information on it actually, and to see, I mean, I don't think my concern around it would be the employees, and I would be more interested in what the trade union stance on it would be, rather than any other organisation, because they're the ones that speak for the people that are going to have to do the work. So, you know, if we're going to go with the recommendation, then that's not going to happen. But we'll see. But if we do, the main thing is the workers and what the trade unions would be recommending for their employees, for the employees.
Yeah, thank you for that. Councillor Maguire?
Margaret Carley, just a question. What specifically does a holiday resort mean? Is there a certain criteria, or is there a list of boxes to be ticked so that you can actually interpret a holiday resort that it conforms to some sort of regularity? Or is it the fact that we could just as a council brand the place a holiday resort just for the convenience of large retailers? That does not seem to be good business. Not a good decision for a council to make. You know, it's so open to, dare I say, corruption even indeed, that you just designate an area as a holiday resort and therefore large retailers can open. So that's the strangest thing ever I've heard now before council. I probably should have been paying more attention back in 2020, but I think the decision through the consultation with the churches and the other bodies at that time, I think that's the right decision for our area at the minute. So I'm happy to second the recommendation.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Elliott?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, obviously it's an interesting one. Obviously it'd have no benefit for any small retailer in the area, you know, sort of thing. This is supposed geared towards your big supermarkets. So it is, so in that regard, you know, yes, there's issues with regard to staff and things like that there. A lot of the retail workers probably in the town here don't belong to a union, so they don't, and that's working for the smaller retailers. So I think from a sort of local business perspective, I could see that as disadvantage to them, you know, that we're allowed in like a little, and then no doubt others will jump on the back of this as well, you know, the larger retailers. Mm-hmm. So they will, as I say, it's a strange one. Obviously the holiday resort is a way around it. You do see it in other towns, and that where little would be open early in the morning, probably up on the north coast there you would see it. But as I say, I'm not sure what way I would go with regard to this, you know, but I think it would be disadvantage obviously to the small local retailers, you know, sort of thing, who wouldn't be able to avail of it, you know, sort of thing. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Feely?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I was kind of thinking on the same lines as Councillor Maguire there, Tommy there, but I didn't want to be asked as if it came a stupid question like, but yes, so is it the Enniskillen would be kind of classed as holiday resorts? Is that the way we are at the minute? No. But when I see that, I think of some place like Pendoran or somewhere like that, you know, or even out Slough where you go away, like that, definitely not. But just can you explain, John, me a bit better. Sorry, I don't want to sound stupid, but when Tommy brought it up on it.
Oh, not at all, Chair. This isn't a holiday resort as in the term that would be used as a tourism destination. This, and if you note at 2.4.1 of the report there, It is in relation to the Sunday trading Northern Ireland Order 1997. So it is very clearly a trading legislation, and it is not any area within our district. It does not have to be the 3 towns, but it just so happens that it is in those 3 towns which affects these larger retail units. So it isn't anything got to do. And yes, you would imagine a holiday resort at the seaside or something like that. That is not the case for the definition of this legislation or in interpretation of the Sunday opening hours. It is a means by which longer hours in the summer months can be achieved for retailers who have a space of over 280 metres squared.
Thank you for that, John. Okay, so it's proposed by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Maguire. All agreed? Thank you. Moving on to item 5, Environment Place Director Report 5.1. Over to you, John.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a draft response to the consultation from the Department of Infrastructure on their 2024 Quality Impact Assessment of their budget settlement. The council powers were approved last night for this response to be submitted. The closing date for the consultation is Friday the 6th of September. This is one in a series of consultation responses that the council has been submitting across a number of government departments over the course of the last number of months. The response, as set out within Appendix 1, highlights the existing inequalities within the district in terms of socioeconomic status. Also sets out the rurality and sparseness of the population, relative deprivation, reduced access to services and the wealth base, and the value of property and lands across the district, all of which affect the ability to raise income. The response also outlines the need for investment into the district's infrastructure, and in particular we've highlighted a number of those infrastructure developments that members will be familiar with and have been discussed at length within the chamber over not just the last number of months, but indeed over the last number of years: the A5, the A4 and the A32. And then finally within the response we've outlined the effects of the reduction in support proposed within the department's budget settlement for 2024-2025, in particular on road maintenance and community and public transport, foodway enhancement, and finally flood management. And members will be familiar with all of those issues. Indeed, many of them were touched on at length in last night's council meeting as well, and will be issues that will be no doubt that members will wish to raise with DFI when they have the annual meeting with them in October next month. So the draft response is attached to the Appendix 1, and it's recommended that Council approves the submission of the draft response in relation to the Department of Infrastructure Budget 2024-25 Equality Impact Assessment.
Thank you, John. Councillor Brown.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, overall, I think it's quite a good response to that consultation. I think it's important that we send a really strong message about the lack of investment that this district has seen over many years now. We all know the budget situation is tight, for all departments, and every area is facing cuts. But we have to make the point that as a rural area, we're isolated. We are going to feel the effects of any cuts much more disproportionately than any other areas. So we're obviously going to be we're really going to be struggling whenever we're not getting the proper funding that we need. So, we had a discussion last night at the council meeting about the wastewater treatment and the issues which are going to become, very, very hard to deal with if we don't get the investment into that wastewater treatment. We can forget about economic development or attracting business opportunities if we're not able to provide that service for them. Again, back to transport. We're constantly all the time raising the issue of transport in this district. The fact that we have a suboptimal level of public transport here, and when we get decisions like the rail review, which everyone was disappointed about, we need to be making the case for this district. What is going to be the future of transport in this district? We need to have proper public transport. We need to have our A5 and our our Enniskillen bypass, those need to be prioritised and we need to make sure that they're delivered. So I think, we just can't give up on this message all the time that we do need to be pushing on all the time for a proper transport network and proper investment when it comes to infrastructure. So I do see that in this consultation response. So I'm happy to propose that we go with the recommendation there. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Brown. Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair, and likewise, I'm happy to second the recommendations in this report. And on a similar vein to Councillor Brown, I think that it's welcome that this does set out very clearly the disadvantaged baseline from which we are operating and the appropriate policy context that provides. But I think that what is useful is that very clearly from the outset of our response, there is a reference to the challenge that is going to be provided from the continued lack of investment and development of water infrastructure. Because I think that over the last number of years, there have been notable instances where we've been very much to the fore in highlighting the challenges for individual estates within our towns and villages where capacity issues have been causing real quality of life issues for our residents. But I think there is a real threat coming on the horizon now of a much more strategic macroeconomic nature where, and I've heard serious challenges emerging from the likes of Enniskillen and Irvinstown, where we are reaching a position where house building, economic development, and the improvement of the quality of life of our towns and villages is becoming drastically more difficult as a result of the fact that there hasn't been a strategic approach taken to the budgeting around this and the finance being provided to NI Water and indeed being allocated by NI Water to be able to deal with this. So the fact that that takes such a prominent position within our response is, I think, something to be welcomed. And I think that we as a council do need to make sure that we continue to apply the pressure in that particular regard, because water as an infrastructural issue is something that cannot leave the public agenda, because it's something that's absolutely critical to the development of our prosperity as a region.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. So that's proposed by Councillor Brown, second by Councillor Donnelly. We're all agreed? Thank you. Item 5.2, to consider report on estate matters, paper E. John again.
Thank you, Chair. So a number of matters for decision and also for information set out within the monthly Estates Matters report. The first of those for decision relates to lands at Irishtown Road in Omagh. Some time ago, members may recall that there was a cycleway that was developed along the between the Irishtown Road and Dublin Road in Omagh through pass, and at that time it's been identified that there was a portion of land, approximately 339 square metres of council lands that were actually used for the purposes of the cycleway, and obviously DFI and council are keen to regularise that. So it's recommended that council now formally transfer that portion of land over to DFI roads at a consideration of £2,000 as has been assessed by Land and Property Services. Next then we have lands at Kellypaddy Road in Lisnaskea. Some members maybe aware that there was a planning approval in place for a housing development at Kellypaddy Road in Lisnaskea, and there was a requirement or a condition within that planning approval for the provision of a footpath which would necessitate a small land take from council of approximately 47 square metres, and there's a map setting out that area in Appendix 1 to the paper. Officers have had a site meeting with the developer, and it's recommended the council dispose of the portion of lands of 47 square metres to enable the footpath to be constructed, and then subject to an assessment by Land and Property Services, the developer would also be responsible for realigning the existing fence and payment of the council's reasonable legal and agent fees. And should say that there will be no other adverse impact on council services within that area or other council lands in that area. Next then with a footpath at O'Kane Park in Omagh, and in September of last year, members may recall this actually had come before council a year ago, where members had accepted an LPS assessment of compensation for the surrender of a portion of the council's leasehold interest in a strip of land at O'Kane Park, so that the landowner, NIHE, could dispose of the land and subsequent to DFI for the provision of pedestrian and cycle path. during the course of the legal formalities over the last 12 months, DFI, who ultimately wish to acquire the land, have approached council and wish to just carry out the transaction directly with the council rather than a surrender of the lease back to housing executive and then on to DFI. So it's been reassessed by LPS and with an enhanced compensation of £1,900 payable to council. So again, it's recommended that this be accepted and the legal formalities be progressed. And I know certainly the DFI are keen to progress that as quickly as possible. Next, we have lands at Waterhen Lane in Belnalek. The Community Association holds a nominal lease of lands at Waterhen Lane, which is due to expire at the end of February next year, and the group have now requested a renewal of the lease for a further 10-year period from March 2025 to the end of February 2035, as per the existing terms and conditions. So it's recommended that that request is approved. And again, that will be subject to the normal LPS processes, and if necessary, that would also then make a referral to the Department of Communities seeking a permission to enter into any less than market value for the 10-year lease based upon the community benefit that has previously accrued and will be expected to continue to accrue. Next, we have lands at Main Street, Maravili. The Community Development Association has a 25-year nominal lease of lands at Main Street in Maravili, and the group have been working in partnership with Ballinamore Community Council and secured grant aid from Leitrim County Council's Community Climate Action Programme. Under the terms of that lease, MCDA has requested permission to install a dual EV charging point and solar panels at the community facility on leased lands, and it's recommended that this is approved, obviously subject to the compliance with all of the necessary statutory approvals being in place. There's then a recommendation in respect of interpretive signage as part of the Lough Erne Pilgrim Way project, and approval is sought for council and officers within council to execute appropriate legal agreements with landowners who are involved in the project. The council will be responsible for the landowners' reasonable legal fees. 2.7 sets out a number of requests for the use of council property. Members will run through the full list to say they're included within the paper, but just say that all of the requests as set out within the paper are in accordance and compliance with the council policy for the use of the facilities as noted. Then at 2.8, we have, again, quite a long list of retrospective approvals for use of council property, and really that's just reflective of the level of activity across the district during the summer months, and these were requests that would have come in after the last Environmental Services meeting at the start of July. So that's just in case members are wondering why there's such a long list for the retrospective approval. Then in section 3 within the report, a number of documents listed for sealing are set out, and again, these are all decisions that have previously come through council, and say we're now really getting to the end of the legal formalities and conveyancing processes. So again, just it's for information for members to note that those processes are now reaching, say, the end of the legal formalities. So recommendations is set out in section 9.1 that the council approves those items from 1 through to 8, and then at 9.2 that the council notes the seal in the documents as set out within the paper.
Thank you for that, John. No indications. Could I get a proposer and seconder? That's all right. Councillor Feely.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, and as usual, it's good to see that council property was well used all summer there, Killyfall Lake Car Park and Marble Arch and the Cottage Meadow. I was just wondering on 2.6 there about the signs on the Lough Erne Pilgrim Way. Maybe I should know, but whereabouts is that? What part of Lough Erne? Where is it close to? You were saying is there new signs, or what the signs there beforehand is agreements with landowners? Is there any problem with landowners? Is everybody agreeable? When you mentioned landowners, just one.
Sorry, Andy, before you, would you like to propose to?
Well, yeah, propose it. Yeah, no problem.
I was just going to say, Chair, that in terms of the specifics of the Pilgrim Way project, I'll maybe defer to John, who's more closer to that. But I suppose this request is really, it's the legal formalities. There'll be signage along the length of the route. It'll cross a number of different landowners' land. So this is about entering into a discussion with them. But the route, I have to say, John will have more information on that.
Yeah, Chair, the Lawyer and Pilgrim Way is a programme, and I think we've brought reports through previously on it. It's a programme which is partly funded through the Lough Erne Landscape Project, and it is a number of sites along Lough Erne, indeed some of them on the islands of Lough Erne, which is historical in nature, and we have quite a number of sites on Lough Erne relating to the pilgrim ways of the past. And the project is due to come to a conclusion in the next number of months, and we will bring our full report to members at that stage on the conclusion of it. And in fact, it may be an opportunity to bring members on the Pilgrim Way just to experience it. It is a tourism project, but it is also a project for the locals. To understand their local heritage and their culture and things like that. So I think it would be a good project to bring members to visit all of those sites and experience the way themselves.
Thank you, John. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would be definitely interested in if we could get something like that going. Just happy to second these recommendations, and just to welcome as well that Enniskillen and Bid are going to be taking on the responsibility of the fireworks this year. I think that's some really good news. So look forward to that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So proposed by Councillor Feely, second by Councillor Brown. We're all in agreement. Thank you. Now on to item 5.3, to consider report on contingency arrangements for town centre. Paper F.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is to update members on the current contingency arrangements that are in place for the clearance of snow and ice from town centre footways in Omagh and Enniskillen during periods of prolonged periods of wintry weather. Pardon me. The report builds on work that was initially done in 2018. That MOU from 2018 was then renewed in October 2021, and it seems like no time now since the 3 years from that previous extension of the MOU is now going to expire in October 2024. So this paper is bringing forward a recommendation that the MOU as it currently exists with DFI would be extended for a further period of 5 years. The paper does just give an overview of, there have been, I suppose, thankfully infrequent requirements to instigate it, but nonetheless, there have been a consistent number of times every year across the district when we have our DFI have had cause to initiate the MOU, and it's working well within Omagh and Enniskillen town centres on those designated routes, and there is a reciprocal arrangement in terms of the provision of grit from the department, and the council responds as far as it's able to within those normal hours and with our existing workforce. So it's recommended the council approves the MOU between DFI Roads and Fermanagh Omagh District Council as set out within the paper, and then the existing MOU is there in Appendix 1, and the detail of the roads and footpaths in Appendix 2.
Thank you, John. Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm more than happy to propose just 2 simple queries, really. I think within the document it says that we're moving from a 3-year agreement, which was the case before, to a 5-year agreement, and I'm just curious as to whether there's a particular rationale for that. And just the second thing, I was just looking through Appendix 2, which was to do with the Priority 1 and Priority 2 areas. I presume that that's a DFI document and kind of assessment. And the only question I would just have in terms of that, if we have that information, is in terms of the prioritization, is that done on the basis of footfall within those particular areas, or does a gradient come into it? Just because I know looking at it for OMA anyway, if it's in terms of footfall, then the areas that are priority one broadly make sense. But if it were in terms of gradient, then Castle Street may need re-looked at again if that were possible. But just curious if there's any clarity just on those issues.
Yeah, thank you. Can I come in, John?
Pardon me. Yes, Chair. This was the member's first question around the 3 to 5 years. As from an officer point of view, so within DFI, but also within the council, we just felt that the last 3 years, and speaking from personal experience, it has gone in the blink of an eye. And we just felt that 5 years for an MOU that has now been operating effectively for 6 years and with no significant change, we felt that it was just a more efficient process to bring it forward on a 5-year cycle. There is provision within the MOU that there will, of course, continue to be that annual officer review, and there's a break clause within the MOU as well that if either party felt that there was a problem or a cause to withdraw from the MOU, that could be done. You will see it's with the provision of 12 months notice, and that's really just to allow for that neither party would withdraw from the MOU in the face of adverse weather, and there's no indication that that would be the case. And the prioritisation is, you're right, it's the prioritisation has been discussed over the last number of years between officers from DFI, but also from council. But the primary criteria for it is around footfall.
Yeah, thank you, John. Okay, should I get a seconder for that report? Councillor Brown. Thank you. And we're all in agreement. Thank you. Moving on to item 6, Environment Place Director Report. 6.1 to note report of the Director of Environment and Place, Paper G. John again.
Thank you, Chair. There's a number of I suppose a number of matters set out within the report. Really, they're all for information members, and happy to take questions on any of them, and saying if there's further detail required on any of them, well, you can follow up on it. The first one is just the note that officers have been working on an application, or have worked on and submitted an application to the DAERA Peatland Challenge 2024 to 2027. Submitted a funding application for approximately 174,000 over a 3-year period on the basis of 100% funding, and said that's a project that's been submitted under the themes of nature and climate recovery and building ecological and climate resilience. And I say it's a project that if it was funded, if it's successful, it would complement other work that the council is also involved in through the Geoparks Sharon Island project in Quailca and West Cavan. And some of the outputs that we would hope to accrue from the project over the 3 years would be the preparation of a peatlands restoration development plan, community engagement, educational and citizen science activities. I say we hope to hear the outcome of that funding application over the next month or so. So I say we'll watch the space, and obviously the outcome of that will be reported back to members then in due course. At 2.2, and I won't necessarily go through it all, members, but there's just a number of different activities that the climate action sustainable, the climate team and have been involved in terms of climate action and sustainable development, and it's across a range of different activities. Some of those that are set out in the paper are retrospective. There was the Healthy Minds campaign in August in Omagh and Enniskillen. We have the team, I should say, rather have also successfully applied for funding from again DAERA, the Northern Ireland Regional Food Programme, and that's going to enable the delivery of 4 farmers markets in Omagh and Enniskillen at Halloween and in the run up to Halloween and Christmas. And again, that's something that we had discussed and identified with the recently established Sperrin and Erin Food Partnership. And this was the last one that we've noted within this is an event that's actually taking place tomorrow afternoon here in the Town Hall for an informal workshop and really a networking and knowledge exchange opportunity for local community organisations and groups to come along and meet with council officers, but also representatives from Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful and a number of other environmental organisations that operate within the district and at a regional level on activities such as carbon smart training and the Green Flag for Communities accreditation. So it's free to attend for any groups, and I don't just have the numbers that are currently registered for it, but I know it has been well promoted across our social media over the last number of weeks. And then the final part of the report is the quarterly statistical report published by DAERA on local authority collected municipal waste. As I've noted previously, and in each quarterly cycle, at this stage the statistics are provisional, but we see very little change in them when it gets to the year end, but they are nonetheless provisional statistics as published at this stage. They broadly reflect the council populations within each of the districts, and they also give a breakdown then on recycling performance. And said just in particular, we've noted the council's performance in terms of mixed tray recycling over that period, and says present the full detail of the statistics are set out within appendices 1, 2, and 3 to the report. So recommendations are set out, members, that note the updates in terms of the Peatlands Challenge funding application, the climate action sustainable development activities, and then the NILUS quarterly figures for January to March 2024.
Thank you, John. Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. I'm happy enough to propose, but can I just ask on 2.2.1, the event tomorrow afternoon, obviously a lot of volunteers based in the community work and wouldn't be able to get to that event. So the workshop material that will be given out tomorrow, would that be available for people that can't attend in some way? Could it be shared on the council website, or would there be another, maybe an online workshop available? Because that funding is open now, isn't it? Or is opening very soon, and it's only open for a few, 3 or 4 weeks. So people need as much information as they can.
Sure, certainly. In terms of any of the presentations that are going to be made tomorrow, I'll certainly follow up with officers. I know the head of service who's responsible for it is watching on WebEx, so I'm sure they'll have heard the same message as I've heard this evening, and we will follow that up with the providers. In terms of any of the other resources that may be available, hard copy resources, whatever was, yes, anybody that can't attend tomorrow, if they contact the council's climate team, we'll be happy to facilitate that. But certainly any learning or any information that's presented tomorrow, if somebody can't attend, as I said, I know the climate team they're very active in terms of those groups or engagement with groups. And happy to take any calls, answer any queries after the fact as well. And as you said, the fund is opening shortly, and it's a relatively short period of time. So we have worked very successfully in developing partnerships over the last couple of years, particularly through the climate team, but more generally across the council with those community groups to enable them to be able to bid in, and they have bid in very successfully for the Live Here, Love Here funding.
Yeah, it looks really interesting, but I know that some people can't actually attend it, so it'd be, even if you get the information after, it'd be very helpful.
Happy enough, Debbie.
Yeah, that's 100%. Thank you.
Councillor Feely.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, John, for that. As I say, it's very interesting. I'd like to second the proposal, and that's very interesting with the Peatland Challenge Fund, and good to see funding from DAERA and from the Shared Island Fund. So very interesting stuff there. So happy to second.
Thank you for that. So proposed by Councillor Coyle, seconded by Councillor Feely, and we're all in agreement. Thank you. Now moving on to correspondence. Yourself, John. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the first piece of correspondence there is from the Department of Agriculture in response to a query which was raised following the July meeting about stakeholder engagement, and the Minister has come back and says that input from all councils will be sought as part of that stakeholder engagement. And also he refers to the fact on the animal welfare funding that his position remains the same, that there is no funding in this current year for the animal welfare provision. It's for no, Chair.
Okay, proposer and seconder to note. Proposed by Councillor Donnelly, seconded by Councillor Robinson. All in agreement, yeah. Thank you.
It's just for the next one.
Yeah, next one, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, Chair, it's just, again, from the Department of Infrastructure for our provision of a disabled persons parking bay at Drumhaugh Park in Lisnaskey. You will note, members, that in the body of the letter that it refers to Drumhaugh Park, Evanstown, but I think that is a typo error on behalf of the Department of Infrastructure.
Thank you. Another proposer and seconder, proposing Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor McArdle. I think we missed out one. Did you want to come in there, John? On the,
Yeah, I think we had it was an email piece of correspondence back in August, and it was again from DAERA, from the EPR team, the Extended Producer Responsibility Team, and just really it's for information for members, so it's just a note, but it was the introduction of the Environmental Protection Single Use of Vapes Regulation in Northern Ireland 2024. So DAERA have made a draft statutory rule which would seek to prohibit the supply and sale, whether by sale or other ways of, in the course of businesses, of single-use vapes, and it's intended that legislation or the statutory will come into force from the 1st of April 2025. So it says really just there to, for information, and members have obviously expressed a lot of concern about the use of single-use vapes previously over the last number of years, both from a health and also an environmental perspective.
yeah, thank you for that, John. Another proposer and seconder to note that. Proposer Councillor Bruff, second by Councillor Donnelly. Thank you. In item 8, there's no any urgent or relevant business, so we'll move into confidential. A proposer and seconder, proposed by Councillor Robinson, second by Councillor Maguire. Councillor Brown. Okay, do you want to give a recap there, John?
Thank you, Chair. So while in confidential business, members considered a confidential report on a number of estate matters and resolved, heard recommendations in respect of the 5 issues and resolved the actions as set out within the paper for each of the 5 estates matters.
Yeah, a proposer and seconder for that. Councillor Brown and Councillor Donnelly. And that brings the meeting